Hello, I'm Jenn de la Vega.
I'm Clara Park.
And welcome to the Cinema Chefs, the podcast for people who love to cook, watch movies, and cook what they see in the movies. Today, we are going to talk about the Phantom Thread. It was a good one. Some spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the movie, and if you are going to watch it, I want to issue a content warning for some twisted psychological power dynamics and poisoning.
A one-sentence summary of the movie would be: an old rich dressmaker and poor young waitress fall in love in 1950s London, but can't decide who wears the pants. Also, when foraging goes wrong.
That's so good.
I mean, we are a food cooking cinema podcast. The film came out in 2017, written and directed by Maya Rudolph's husband, Paul Thomas Anderson, starring the GOAT, Daniel Day-Lewis as Reynolds Woodcock, Vicky Krieps as Alma, and Leslie Manville as Cyril, Daniel Day-Lewis' sister. Nominated for a slew of Oscars for Day-Lewis, Manville, P.T. Anderson, Johnny Greenwood for original score, and Best Picture, ultimately only winning for Best Achievement in Costume Design for Mark Bridges because, obviously.
Wow. Yeah.
The gowns are out of control in this movie. The designs they're characters in their own right. I mean, I think even if you watch this movie on mute, just to see the sumptuous clothing is really a visual feast for the eyes. All right. And I also read that the designs are loosely based on Balenciaga.
I did not know that. And I also did not know that Maya Rudolph is married to P.T. Anderson.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have 5 kids or something.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's so fancy. We chose this movie because it was one of the most talked about food scenes of the recent 5 years. Like, it was covered in Bon Appetit, New York Magazine's Vulture, Binging with Babish. Clara, you watched this more recently than me, right?
I did. I watched it probably a couple months ago, and it's a really gorgeous, perfectly done, well executed film. It's not a movie, it's a film. I mean, It's really just top notch, like across the board.
And it's also the reason we started this podcast.
Yay!
Get ready for a lore drop. I had catered a movie trivia birthday party for a previous wedding client of mine. We're familiar with each other, we know each other's likes and dislikes in the kitchen, and I was posting each of the courses on Instagram. The first course, the way the party was set up, each of the courses was based on one of his favorite movies, and his wife had looked through his Letterboxd account to check it out. I came up with the menu, and everybody had little trivia cards, and they had to guess what it was from. If I served you a bunch of onion rings, what movie would you think that is? That's pretty vague, but
I don't know onion rings.
It was Shrek. Ogres are like onions. And the opening course for this dinner was the breakfast foods from the Phantom Thread. And you saw this post.
I freaked out, immediately called her. And I'm not exaggerating. I literally saw it, and I think within 2 minutes, I picked up my phone, called her. She actually picked up, which in this day and age, no one does.
I hate talking on the phone, by the way.
But, Kismet, I was obsessed with Dinner and Movie on TBS when I was growing up, and the idea for this podcast just seemed like the modern way to honor that show, make it more educational, informative, and it just happened I saw the post, I knew that she was into the same kinds of things that I was.
Yes.
I was like, we need to do a podcast together about cooking and movies. And she's like, okay. And
immediately, yes. Yeah.
And I am not exaggerating any part of this story. It's not like we scripted this like, hey, let's make up our origin story. That's literally what happened.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I used to work at Nielsen, TV ratings.
Cool.
And my beat was actually TBS on Saturday mornings.
Stop it. Oh my gosh.
Movie and a Makeover, Dinner and a Movie. I've watched all of them. And I also had worked on other podcasts, like I'm still on Fun City, but I also had a short-lived project called Culinary Word of the Day. And so the idea of educating people about culinary terms and definitions was very important to me. This new idea, this new podcast, Cinema Chefs, is sort of folding that in. I was very happy that you suggested it.
I love this. And then I also fell in love with this idea for a podcast because I'm obsessed with movies, and I've totally learned things from movies despite being a professional chef. And I'm sure Jen can say the same. A friend of mine told me he actually made the marinara sauce from the jail scene in Goodfellas.
Yes.
Where they use razor blades to cut the thinnest slivers of garlic.
And how did that turn out for them?
He said it was pretty good.
That rules.
Yeah.
See, that's movie that's the real movie magic for
Well,
us.
it's such a specific, it's like, okay, if I say razor blades cutting garlic, you know exactly, like anyone who's seen that
Goodfellas,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows that scene from the food prep action, and that's what's sort of genius about that scene and Martin Scorsese. Anyway, that's for another episode.
Yes, Phantom Thread. I had the best time recreating that whole breakfast. It has a lot of moving parts. And we're going to get into the quote, but what was so tantalizing about this scene?
Well, it's almost like foreplay, right?
Ooh.
They do the long glances at each other.
Yes.
And then they don't know each other, but they obviously find each other attractive, and you can see that like magnetism for each other. And the order is really long because he just wants to keep her attention as long as possible. It's kind of like, is that a slick move, or is he like an egomaniacal genius trying to monopolize her time? And we don't know.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the vibe of the movie, is that even at the end you're sort of like, oh, I don't know about all this. Like I
don't
still
know what's
don't know.
happening. Yeah.
The breakfast scene is very important because this man is sensitive.
Yes.
He's very sensitive in the morning. He does not stray from routine. The opening sequence, while gorgeous, if you watch it a second time, he is very, very meticulous. He shaves. He trims his freaking nose hairs, you know?
Gross.
His first breakfast is at 4 minutes, 14 seconds. He has a current paramour who he calls Anna. She offers him pastries, and he says, I told you, Anna, no more stodgy things. And he also says, I cannot begin my day with a confrontation, please. Clara.
What a jerk.
I know. Clara, are you a morning person?
I don't have children, so I wake up whenever I want. And
Same.
to my mom friends, they are just astounded that I wake up without an alarm. I wake up without screaming kids, and my circadian rhythms are pretty strong. I'll go to bed 10:30, 11. I'm up 6:30, no alarm, just ready to start the day. I am not like Woodcock. I don't have a routine per se. I wake up at around the same time and I have coffee to start my day, but I don't trim my nose hair or shave. Wait, are you a morning person?
It depends. I need just my 7 hours of sleep. It doesn't matter when it happens. It's just I need my 7 consecutive hours. Sometimes I have late nights. Sometimes.
Yeah.
To set the scene, the foreplay before the foreplay. Reynolds, after delivering a much-anticipated dress to a countess, his sister Cyril asks, what do you want me to do about Joanna? Her name is not even Anna, dude. He didn't even call her by the right name.
That's the worst.
He's terrible. He has his sister break up with her, and she suggests that he leave for the country house that night. They're at dinner, and she's saying, leave tonight, presumably so Joanna can move out. This is where we're getting to where we're gonna meet Alma. He drives all night, maybe on no sleep, and arrives at a restaurant inside the Victoria Hotel. I'm guessing he's never been because he doesn't have a usual, and he doesn't know who Alma is. And he has a country house. Like, he wouldn't stay there anyway.
I think if you haven't seen the movie, he's incredibly wealthy. He's probably the foremost dressmaker.
Yeah.
Couturier for the rich and famous, yeah.
And the amount of food he orders in this scene is a lot for one person. In contrast, by the end of the movie, he is so weak he only eats 1 mushroom omelet and is happily sick. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack. Officially, the scene starts at 13 minutes, 38 seconds. I'm going to read you the full quote.
Love it.
I can't do it like him, though. The way I sound like a freaking cartoon when I read it. Forgive me for not delivering an Oscar-worthy performance.
He's a 2-time Oscar winner.
Wow.
Continue. Yeah.
Welsh. I can't even say Welsh. Okay.
You can do it.
Welsh rarebit with a poached egg on top. Not too runny, please. And bacon, scones. He says scones, not scones.
So effective.
Scones, butter, cream, jam, not strawberry, raspberry. What else? She offers coffee or tea. He asks for a pot of Lapsang and some sausages. And she says the line also, and some sausages. And the power move here, which is why the whole scene makes you giddy, he asks her to show him the paper order, and he says, will you remember? She says yes. And he keeps the paper.
And he's like, I'm keeping this.
I've never seen anyone do that before at a restaurant.
Because I don't think this is intense. Like, this is seduction.
They're staring at each other the whole time.
They're basically like fornicating, like, over this order.
Yeah. And so what does he do, Clara?
Then after his extensive order arrives, he just, like a freaking G, will you have dinner with me? And then she says yes. But this is the best part of the scene.
This is so good, yeah.
She takes a note out of her apron, which she'd obviously already written, that just says, for the hungry boy, my name is Alma. She totally knew this was going to happen, and she was ready. So this whole scene is who has the upper hand, who's in control, who has the power. And I think ultimately she's so confident because she literally has the last word. And you see him kind of like floating on a sea of happiness, reading the note and dreaming about her. And it's just so seductive, so sexy over breakfast. It's broad daylight. I mean, it's a breakfast order. But I think that it's a testament to how good Paul Thomas Anderson's writing is.
Yes.
This scene is dripping with sex. It's dripping with intention. It's dripping with all kinds of hunger. And I watched this scene, obviously, in the movie originally, but I watched it over and over a couple times in preparation for this podcast, and it never gets old.
I watched it 2 more times today, and I re-rented the movie.
Yeah, it's mastery of all things. The acting, the writing, the music, like even the light is gorgeous. And that has to be natural light. I don't think it's like one of those fake giant showbiz lights. And yeah, like I said, I had not seen the movie until I saw your post. But I needed to see this movie with this ridiculous breakfast order.
Yeah, the character Cyril says much later on in the movie, if breakfast isn't right, it's hard for him to recover for the rest of the day. Let's do a play-by-play breakfast order. Before either of them speaks, Alma delivers a toast rack to another table. Clara, do you have a toast rack?
I do not.
Me either.
I feel like toast racks are sort of synonymous with really, really wealthy people.
Yes.
You have something just to store toast. And I don't know about you, Jen, but for me, I'm anti mono-use anything.
Yes.
A toast holder, a garlic press, an avocado slicer.
Unitaskers is what Alton Brown calls them.
Yes. And a strawberry huller. I really can't stand, because I think it's a waste of space, it's a waste of money, and I'm not a fan. But chances are, if you see someone put a toast holder with 6 pieces of toast on a table, it's some rich person's house. TV, movie, a play. You're in the presence of richness.
Yeah, the purpose of it is so that the toast does not steam on either side. That's why it's stored vertically. We're gonna get to the actual order. What is Welsh rarebit?
I love Welsh rarebit, just for the record. Essentially, toast with cheese fondue on top. Much as is this theme for most of our episodes, there is no gold standard for this recipe. From my research, I can tell you that it typically starts with the roux, equal parts flour and butter as a thickener. You melt the butter, whisk in your flour, and then you cook it a little bit. Blonde roux is white, it'll get darker. New Orleans Creole style cooking, you might do like a dark roux or a black roux, but it's a different flavor. Anyway, this uses a blonde roux. And then more recipes use mustard powder, but then some of them will use Dijon mustard, a combination of Worcestershire sauce and liquid, whether it's milk and beer, just milk, and then lots of shredded cheddar cheese. You let it all cook, melt together into this thick, gooey, cheesy, wonderful goodness. Then you spread it on top of the toast. Sometimes recipes will have you broil the whole thing so it gets caramelization, a little crispy, a little golden. And other recipes just leave it as is. What's also interesting is there's differing theories about if it's actually Welsh and when it came to be. Most likely it was the 17 or 1800s. Also, there's some debate about why it's called rarebit.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, the first time I saw that, I thought it was a typo. I was like, oh my God, they don't know how to spell rabbit.
I think most people think it's
yeah,
rabbit.
Some theorize that only the wealthy could afford actual rabbit, so the peasants came up with this delicious and satisfying and meat-free option. However you prepare it, you really can't go wrong. Such great comfort food, but I love all things with cheese and beer.
Yes. Another cool chefy shortcut is if you've ever made pimento cheese or beer cheese, that is a similar makeup, except that it is cooked down with a roux. Okay, next he asks for a poached egg on top, not too runny. In my experience, the best way to poach a few eggs is in a small pot, barely simmering water. And you do the vortex where you stir the water. So it spins?
Yeah, I'm not big on vortex, but I am big on vinegar.
Okay.
When I was in restaurants and we had to poach a lot of eggs, you'd get a giant rondeau. It's a really large, round, shallow pot, and we would put the acidulated water. Not too acidulated. Acidulated just means you're adding acid, whether it's vinegar or lemon juice or...
It's not a crazy amount.
No, because you don't want the vinegar to overpower the water. And I think also when you're poaching eggs, the temperature matters a lot. Are you starting with cold eggs from the fridge? That is going to be slower and take longer than eggs that are room temp. I think be smarter than the egg. If you know you're going to poach, pull the eggs out early so that you're saving that time in poaching the egg. But yeah, acidulated water, room temp eggs. Make sure you have enough water, but it's not too deep. So maybe a couple inches. If it's too deep and you have a giant swimming pool of water, I think it doesn't hold its shape as well. Whenever you're cooking, and I tell this to my students all the time, what are you doing? What is your goal? What's the best way to get there? How can you be smarter than your ingredients? Mei Lin from Top Chef winner, she also has a really good hack where she does super vinegary water. And I think it's 2-to-1 water to vinegar.
Damn!
But the high acidic concentration in the liquid essentially cures the protein in the egg white.
That makes
And
sense.
it kind of holds its shape much better. And you can do a ton at once and then let them hang out. When I was in restaurants and we had poached eggs on a jalapeno cream toast, it was a southern themed restaurant. You'd poach the eggs and then we held them in a container of water in the danger zone, which you're not allowed to do anymore.
Yeah,
This is about 20 years ago.
sure. Also for the Phantom Thread Party, I have a chefy hack. If you're going to bulk cook a lot of eggs, I use sous vide or controlled water bath. You typically vacuum seal food and cook it at a consistent temperature for a set amount of time. The cool thing about eggs, they have their own vacuum seal. Like, that's the shell. You don't have to vacuum seal eggs. They're already, like, packaged up for you.
It's amazing.
Dave Arnold has an incredible chart if you Google it. It's called the Egg Chart, and he has all of these wonderful sous vide temperatures and doneness that he has observed because egg whites and egg yolks cook at different rates. And so you wanna hit a magical texture. I like custardy kind of poached eggs.
I'm with you. I want custardy, warm, not cold. I don't mind if it's runny, but
I like runny.
it's got to be warm. I don't like cold. That means it wasn't cooked long enough. And then also freshness of the eggs also affects how well they poach. The fresher the egg, the more tight the egg white will be. For our friends at home, I don't know if you've noticed, I cook eggs all the time. Older eggs, when you crack them into the pan, the egg white dissipates so quickly and it
Yes,
gets
it's
so
very
thin.
watery. Yeah.
But fresher eggs, it'll hold that egg white tighter. Obviously, it still comes out and spreads, but not nearly as quickly and as thinly as older eggs. We've seen that in a frying pan. The same thing happens in liquid when you're poaching.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good call.
Good call.
That's a good call.
Age matters for eggs. Wait, before we go deeper, you had mentioned something really interesting about this breakfast, which we both would consider almost a typical British breakfast.
Yeah, it doesn't have the full 9 or the full English breakfast, which typically has bacon, eggs, baked beans, fried or grilled tomatoes, mushroom, toast, or fried bread. It may include black pudding and sausages. I noticed that his order does not have mushrooms. I think this was deliberate
Absolutely. Absolutely.
because they appear later in the film.
Yes, we've already talked about when foraging goes wrong. More specifically, when foraged mushrooms go wrong. Although,
Was it wrong though? Because the lady told her the ones with gills are poisonous.
yeah, no, listen, I was being cheeky. She
It's
knew
not an accident.
exactly what she was doing. But for normal non-psychopaths, foraging for poisonous mushrooms is foraging gone wrong. That's just what I meant.
Got it.
But I think that was a really salient observation. And again, the script is airtight. That was deliberate. That they were not included. Tomatoes also not included. And a long time ago, people also thought that tomatoes were poisonous and they were afraid to eat them.
Oh, it is a nightshade.
Yeah. So,
Wait!
yeah, mind blown.
Oh, that's so crazy.
But then also there's no baked beans. But
There's no blood sausage.
Oh, you know what though? But that's
also symbolic.
Yeah.
Like, no blood. Yeah.
no blood, no poisonous things, no things that could be misconstrued for poisonous things.
Dude.
It's
really blown my mind with
yeah,
this
really.
one.
This is why we do this, Jen.
This is
You know,
crazy.
we're doing a deep dive. But I
Damn.
think I love a good British breakfast. But let's get a little bit deeper into why this is such a good breakfast. I think the reason why most people don't do a full British breakfast at home is it's a pain. You've got
It's
to
a
make
lot of
a
ingredients.
million things.
Yeah. Let's talk about protein. Let's talk about meat.
Yeah, meat.
There's a bunch of protein in a full English breakfast. Reynolds orders bacon and some sausages. That's the kicker. It's the and some sausages. Yeah, that's probably the innuendo. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And some sausages.
The bacon in the film is a little different. In England, they have back bacon, where the pork loin is still attached. Most of the bacon in the US is pork belly. It is cured with nitrates and lots of salt and sugar. And it's very thin and fried to a crisp. In the UK, it's a little thicker. And in Ireland, if you're savvy, they have rashers, which is more like a sliced ham. It doesn't have so much fat on it.
It looks really good. I wonder who the food stylist was on this movie.
Oh, we didn't look that up. We should.
The food was really looked really good. And
what little food there was, yeah.
But I think all the food in the movie is important.
Yeah.
This is the grand seduction is this breakfast. The ordering, the going back and forth. I mean, this is the foreplay. This is their meet cute, but this is also I think they both kind of fall in love with each other in this scene. And then, you know, bacon and sausage, the double meat, that's really, really
That's
excessive.
excess. Yeah.
Very, very excessive. It's a lot of pig. And scones, as you said. Scones.
Plate of them, they're huge.
They were gigantic.
They're like biscuits in the South. They're like huge.
Yeah, for someone like Woodcock, who's so fastidious about everything, he's never going to eat all this food. It's literally just, I want to keep you at the table as long as I can.
For show, yeah.
But I think with scones, they're just really, really good in the UK. I think they take it way more seriously than they do here. And I think also the quality of the dairy in the UK is just better.
They have grades of dairy. We just have skim milk, low-fat milk.
Yeah. So the butter, the cream, the clotted cream. I've eaten clotted cream a lot. I love to go to tea, high tea, low tea, what have you. And you get the clotted cream and you put it on your scone. And it's actually pretty recently that I discovered how you make it. It's essentially you're cooking down and reducing heavy cream.
Yes.
And it takes forever. It's honestly it's not worth the effort, because it takes so long to do it. And I think a buttery, delicious scone with the highest quality butter you can buy, it should be rich and delicious. It should not be crumbly sawdust. Why did I order this? That you find at a lot of coffee shops. It should be buttery and rich. It should stain your napkin with butter stains. That is a well-made scone. My favorite is clotted cream and jam. Again, high quality jam, not something that's super watery and high fructose corn syrup. I mean, you want fruit, you want sugar, you want pectin. And when Woodcock orders not strawberry, because strawberry is too pedestrian for him. So Alma, she's like a raspberry, and that is satisfactory.
Test.
Everything
he does is a test.
But I think they're both testing each other. And I think what's really sort of revolutionary about this relationship is it's the 50s. He is this incredibly wealthy, incredibly powerful, networked man. And she is a waitress at a hotel restaurant serving breakfast. And she goes toe to toe with him.
Yeah.
And that's so unusual for that time. That's so unusual for two classes of people. So, I mean, they're different in every way, but she does not back down. And I think that's why he also falls in love with her.
Yeah. Yeah, she fights back.
She's a very strong, strong woman. It's breakfast, coffee or tea. Jen, are you a coffee or tea person in the morning?
I'm a tea person. I can't handle too much caffeine.
Wait, what kind of tea do you drink?
I will brew a strong English breakfast and only drink half of it. Then I'll save the other half for the next day. And I have to do this before 10 a.m. Because anything after 10 a.m., I'm going to be up all night. I'm so sensitive.
That is amazing. I love tea, but in the morning, I have a lot of coffee. I'll do cappuccino and Americano, then I'll do an espresso later in the day. And if I'm feeling really dragging,
dude.
I might do 4 espresso drinks in the course of a day.
What?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I think my body is just, I think from working in restaurants as long as I did, and then just sort of, it's a part of my day. I get caffeine headaches if I don't have enough coffee. Yeah, it's an addiction. I know that's what it is. But I also find such enjoyment from the ritual of really good quality coffee, high quality beans, obviously whole milk always, and just sipping my coffee in the morning with my thoughts, not listening to anyone, not reading anyone. But there is, for me, such a romantic notion of sipping coffee in solitude. In Italy, you can't have coffee or a cappuccino after, I think, 11 o'clock. If you try to do that, they look at you like you're so stupid.
Similarly, there is this energy about sipping tea, keeping it warm over a long period, but steeping has its limit, though. Tea can become bitter, much like their relationship. Ha-ha.
Double entendre.
Ha-ha.
Do you think their relationship gets bitter?
I think it becomes nuanced, yeah. There's bitterness involved, for sure.
I don't know if I'd use that word. I think their relationship is always a struggle. It's always a power struggle, always, in everything that they do. And that's another scene with food in the movie with the asparagus. He yells at her because she cooked it in olive oil instead of butter. I have to agree, asparagus is better with butter. Everything that she does is criticized extensively, and then she has to find a way to fight back, and she does it through food. And I think that that's, if you're going back to 1950s, 60s, a woman's place was in the kitchen, quote unquote. She doesn't have money. She doesn't have agency. It seems that she doesn't have the upper hand in any way, but she does control what he eats. And she uses that to her advantage.
Speaking of strength, the tea he chooses, Lapsang, is
Lapsang.
quite strong. It's quite strong.
Yes. What is Lapsang? It is short for Lapsang Souchong. It is an ancient and much-loved tea from China. Large leaves are dried over smoky pine fires. That's what gives it its smoky, complex, nuanced taste. It is apparently much, much harder to find.
Yes.
Twinings, the British tea powerhouse, I guess stopped selling it because they were having a difficult time sourcing it. And then they replaced it with some other smoky black tea, and the serious tea drinkers, I guess, are very particular. They got really upset.
Oh my gosh.
They were like, what is this? This isn't the right one, and blah, blah, blah. But what's also interesting is that I believe all tea starts off green. I feel like we went to a tea plantation in Charleston. They had a tea plant that was, I don't know, 100 years old or 500 years old. It was really old. But that's what they said on the tour that blew my mind. And then depending on how they age it, that's what affects, is it a green tea? Is it a black tea? Is it a what? But it all comes from green plants or green trees or green bushes, which I thought was really...
That's so cool.
Fascinating.
For that Phantom Thread dinner, I thought the tea was way too crazy to serve at night.
Yeah, they'd be up all night.
So we made a tea simple syrup from it and made old fashions.
Oh, that sounds so
It
good.
was a lot of fun.
What'd you guys use for the alcohol?
We had hibiki, Japanese
My
whiskey.
gosh.
I know, it was too fancy. It was so fancy.
You know what? That is a killer cocktail.
It was great.
My favorite tea, hands down, bar none, Earl Grey. If anything has Earl Grey in it, I will order it. If it's
Love
a
that
cocktail with
bergamot.
Earl Grey simple syrup, I just ordered a Earl Grey creme brulee. I believe it's Milk John has Earl Grey ice cream with honeycomb. It's so delicious.
Yum.
Earl Grey pound cake, anything with Earl Grey, I will order it. Also, I feel that way about pimento cheese. I love pimento cheese. I think it's so good. I'll eat it on cardboard. I love it so much. It's the best.
Clara, as chefs and service people, you and I can clock when someone orders with style, right?
100,000,000%. I think what's interesting, when I was working in a restaurant in San Francisco, one of the owners, restaurant vet, he'd been in restaurants for a gazillion years. And he looked at me one day and he said, "Do you come from Blue Blood?" And I started laughing. I go, "No, I do not." And he goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "I went to private school. I went to such and such." He goes, "I knew it." I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "It's the way that you carry yourself. It's the way that you talk." I go, "Yeah, but how do you know? I'm a line cook. I look like a boy and I am, sweating and disgusting." And he goes, "I think it's working front of house for 20 years. You just learn to read people."
Yeah.
And I think when you're in a restaurant, how do people order? What do they order? How do they treat the service staff?
Yes.
What is their knowledge? And just sort of, what do you ask for? If someone is going to a restaurant ordering Opus One, that's a very showy, I want to tell you that I have money. But if someone goes in and orders like Tokai dessert wine,
Yes.
that is someone who knows wine.
That's
but
funny you say that.
I love Tokai. Tokai Essentia, love it. A very fancy person that knew way more about wine and had way more money than I did shared some with me one night. But do they order wine? How do they order it? Honestly, it's dumb stuff. How do they stir their coffee? Do they put their napkin in their lap? How do they hold their knife and fork? How do they order? What is the cadence of their ordering? Everything that Woodcock did, he knew exactly what he's doing. And I think also people that dine out a lot, I think there's a difference between being particular and being knowledgeable. I don't ask for stuff in an obnoxious way. I would never say poached egg, not too runny. I would never say that. I would never say bacon extra crispy. I would never order well done steak with ketchup. Do you know what I mean? There's certain things that I wouldn't do. But I think that that's also people that have worked in service.
We have a shared language about food, and that's why this scene is so sexy. It is courtship.
So sexy.
Ooh.
Seduction.
We can see that he's testing her. She passes the test with the jam line.
Flying colors.
She repeats after him, and some sausages. She's already hooked. She's in.
Yeah, I love it. And who would have thought that a breakfast scene could be this sexy?
Seriously.
Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, he imagined it. And I think also if you had lesser actors, it would not have hit
I don't
at
think
all.
So. Yeah.
It would have been so stupid. And, why is this breakfast order so long? But this is, you are mesmerized. You are captivated. And I think also Daniel Day-Lewis, he's one of the greatest actors of his time. He's probably one of the greatest actors of all time. The way that he inhabits roles and he becomes these characters. He works a lot with Paul Thomas Anderson when he was in There Will Be Blood. Again, My Milkshake.
Yeah.
Again,
that's for another episode.
Another food episode. What's that other movie? Gangs of New York. With the steak. The raw steak that he barely cooks that is still mooing, and the way that he eats it. Oh my God. Okay.
Clara, where is the best place to get a full English breakfast?
We are lucky enough to have Dandelion. It's a British style pub in Rittenhouse Square. They do a great English breakfast. And I know from personal experience, it's actually a really good hangover breakfast because it's so rich and starchy and fatty and everything you need to fill up your stomach, make you feel better. You need that starchy, meaty, greasy goodness. I've had that many times.
I actually haven't had them formally. I've had pieces of the English breakfast, but not all of it at once. But I can recommend a great book. It's called The Breakfast Bible by Seb Amina and Malcolm Eggs. Both pseudonyms, clearly. They have one of my favorite passages from the book is about serving tea, and one should not humiliate the tea bag by squeezing it out when you remove it from the cup.
Great line.
It's so good. Let the bag do its job. Don't embarrass the poor dear.
That's amazing.
It's sort of like making a delicate broth. Don't crush the vegetables when you strain them out. It can become cloudy. That really blew my mind.
That's really beautiful.
Also, eater.com has a great list. We'll put that in the show notes.
Amazing.
For New York City. And Clara, where do you get British items like clotted cream, Devonshire cream, teas, and scones? Scones.
Philly, I can't think of anything deliberately British, but on the main line in Wayne, there's a place called A Taste of Britain, and they have British teas, British ingredients. They do high tea.
Ooh.
It's really a lovely and charming place.
In New York, we have Myers of Keswick, Tea and Sympathy. They're both in the Village. There's also Big Cheers in the Lower East Side. And listeners, we would like to know your breakfast tips, like best combination of meats, eggs, toast, what have you. Do you have a trick that will make me fall in love with you and feed you poisonous mushrooms? I'll admit I don't know when someone is hitting on me, but I won't say no to an excellent breakfast.
Whatever you cook it carefully.
Ooh, oh, okay. Okay, Clara.
Yeah.
We want you flat on your back listening to our podcast.
Tune in next time as we explore the basics of multi-course meals in the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Thank you for tuning in to The Cinema Chefs. Please share your tips and tricks with our Instagram at The Cinema Chefs or drop us a line at thecinemachefs@gmail.com. We hope you enjoyed the show. This is Jen.
And Clara signing off.
Just remember, you can become a better cook just by watching a movie. The Cinema Chefs was recorded in Brooklyn, New York and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Edited by Jen De La Vega. Music by Penguin Music, Paradise Island, from Pixabay. And our logo was by Nikki Newsom.